Hey y'all, Jalen Michael Haley here again. I just wanted to talk a little bit about some questions that I got from one of my fellow classmates regarding an article published just recently entitled "The United States Air Force Academy Doesn't Train Warriors Anymore." I'm not going to get into the specific details of some of the arguments that are made by the author regarding some of the training issues that we have at the Air Force Academy, but I do want to talk about the premise of this article. Two paragraphs kind of highlight what that premise is. Quote, "In a flash, I got it. The Academy was no longer training cadets to be Air Force warriors. They were no longer training to fight for our country and win wars. They were being trained to function in the bureaucracy. The Academy was all about competing with civilian institutions in a variety of ways." End quote. Later on, the author goes on to say, quote, "It is obvious the Air Force Academy is no longer training warriors to lead men or women into battle. They are no longer into the type of training that created the greatest Air Force ever known to man. In fact, they are more interested in a military version of safe spaces and trigger warnings, so it seems." End quote. Anytime I have a discussion with someone, I always like to start out with the definitions of the things that we're talking about. So the definition of warrior is a person engaged or experienced in warfare. A soldier is what I've been able to find in terms of its basic definitions. So when we talk about warfare, we have to acknowledge that warfare has looked very different for individuals who graduated from the Air Force Academy and went on to fight and support the Constitution, who graduated in 1960, than individuals who graduated in my class in 2006. The differences that we had in training were appropriate for the type of warfare that we were expected to fight in. Now, I'm not saying that there aren't some commonalities between the training that we had from back in 1960 and the individuals who graduated in my class in 2006. But a lot of those positive aspects of the training have been meted over into what we saw in 2006 and what we continue to see at the Air Force Academy. What is troubling is the idea that simply because the training program that the Air Force Academy cadets currently are experiencing is different than what we saw in 1960 and even in 2006, that it somehow degrades what the Air Force Academy cadets will be able to do for this nation. And I reject that. I reject it because this very same argument was made about my class. This very same argument was made about classes that graduated in the 1990s. The same argument was made about the classes that graduated in the 1980s. Why? Because it didn't look like the training of the classes before that. And that's okay. Not everyone in every one of those classes agrees that the training that we saw back at the very beginning of the academy is appropriate for what we see today. Why? Because training evolves, the requirements and goals of that training evolve, and the type of warfare, which is what this is all about, evolves. So as a result of that, the individuals who are charged to meet those requirements, our superintendent, the commandant of cadets, the dean of faculty, and our athletic director, have morphed the training requirements for our cadets to meet the requirements that they have levied on them by our senior leaders in the Air Force and by our congressional leaders and the President of the United States. If we were incapable as an academy community of producing cadets that were appropriate for the types of warfare that we're seeing today, I think that there would be a larger response than from the Air Force Academy graduate community. There would be a response from our Air Force senior leaders and a response from our congressional leaders. But there has not been. Because as I said before, these arguments have been made in the past, and in every successive generation, we have shown honor and dignity in everything that we do in supporting and defending our Constitution. And in every single class, we have had individuals that were highlighted with distinction in the types of warfare that we face, no matter the type of training that they saw when they were at the Air Force Academy. So what I would like to say to the Air Force Academy cadets currently serving at the Academy is that this article, while there are some things that I think we should be able to talk about, does not reflect the type of respect that we have for you in raising your right hand and in trying to protect and defend our Constitution. We acknowledge you, we support you, and we will do everything that we possibly can to help you through your academy experience as a graduate community. For those individuals that are coming after the current classes of the Air Force Academy, We encourage you to look at our Air Force Academy as something in preparation for the future types of warfare that we will see going into the remainder of the 21st century. It's going to be different. We're going to see a lot of cyber warfare. We're going to see a lot of warfare in the shadows. But it is no less important that you prepare for those kinds of warfare than what we've seen in the past. What I will say to our Academy leadership is that we support you as well in meeting the requirements of our senior Air Force leaders and our congressional leaders. It's important that you know that just like there are individuals out there who write articles about how poorly of a job you're doing, there are those of us out there that support what you're doing. And we will continue to support you in the best way that we can. It doesn't mean that that support won't come with some critiques, but it does mean that in general, we acknowledge that you have met the challenge of our leaders and will continue to do so going into the future. I thank you very much for your time, and I hope that everyone who's an Academy graduate out there continues to keep track of what's going on back at our Academy, but that if we have suggestions about how to improve that, we vet those in appropriate manners. If you have a suggestion, talk to the commandant, talk to the superintendent, provide those measures of feedback through the AOG board and other mechanisms. But what we don't need to do is write articles like this to disparage the individuals who are currently at the Academy and people who are looking at this and considering going to the Academy into the future. What we need to be doing is trying to refine what we have and highlighting the great things about what we do see at our Air Force Academy, because there are a lot of great things that are out there. Thanks again for your time, and I hope you have a great rest of the weekend. Go Falcons, go Steelers, and good luck to all the other teams that are out there.